Welcome to I May Be Wrong.
I don't know what this world is coming to,
but I don't think so. We're broadcasting from the greater Nashville area, the home of country music, beyond the borders of political correctness and identity politics. Facts and faith are our demarcations. Truth lights our path.
Barry White of Podcast Radio.
The Venerable Alfonso Ashworth.
Welcome to another exciting episode of I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Of course, I'm your humble host, Alfonso Ashworth. We got a great and exciting program for you today. We're going to take a little detour. We're going to ease down conspiracy lane. We talked about this. It's a lot happening. I wanted someone to come on. I put the message out there. I had several people actually want to do this. And they sent me some ideas, and I looked over the ideas, and I saw some of them that I had seen quite a bit of. I see that Paula is in our chat room already posting some conspiracies. She's starting out with 9/11, of course, and then Sandy Hook and the Las Vegas shooting and the Clinton Foundation and Haiti. So there's a lot of things out there, but I think we have someone on that's gonna mesmerize you with what he or she thinks. I say he, but I tell you what, they wanted to be anonymous, and I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page. And so anonymous, of course, is going to be on in just a few minutes. But before we get started, I want to, of course, tell you how to get on the website. You can go to I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So.com. That will get you on the website. You click the player and you're live. Okay, we go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 11 a.m. on the East Coast. We've been everywhere. We've been to Florida. We've been to Chicago with this show in terms of online show. We've been to L.A. We've been to Washington, D.C. We've been all over the place. And this time we're going to be in the southeast part of the country. Our anonymous guest is going to be coming from that area. We're not going to give out any more information than that. But I'm going to play a quick clip that will lead us into this program.
Jeffrey Epstein is the billionaire financier charged in July with the sexual trafficking of girls as young as 14 years old. Media reports have identified at least 80 alleged victims and raised serious questions about Epstein's powerful circle of friends, including President Donald Trump and former President Bill Clinton. Now, many things about Jeffrey Epstein remain unclear, including how it is that he got so rich, and also how it is that he avoided federal prosecution despite being a pedophile with dozens of alleged victims. Well, one intriguing hint was offered by the person who gave Epstein that plea deal back in 2007, Alexander Acosta, the former U.S. attorney in Miami. Acosta went on to become the Trump administration's labor secretary before having to resign in July over his role in the Epstein case. According to journalist Vicky Ward, writing in the Daily Beast, the Epstein issue came up when the Trump transition first interviewed Acosta for the job. Acosta reportedly told the Trump team, quote, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone," unquote.
Well, there you have it. And this is something a lot of individuals that have been trying to keep up with this Epstein story. There's still a lot of holes in this story. And I think the person that's coming on is going to try to give their thought on this. But this anonymous lives in the southeastern part of the country. He's an average person that's worked most of his life as a mechanic and spent the last part of his career in law enforcement. He became aware of weird things occurring during the last Bush presidency. He began paying attention while using common sense, and his eyes began to open. He says he is not crazy. That remains to be seen for both of us. But some events just seem to fit certain narratives and cannot be simply explained away. He loves his country. He hates seeing what is becoming more and more extreme, and with these liberal and these what he called idiots' ideology. Welcome to the show. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Anonymous.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. The question is, what is going on in the world that you live in terms of your theories, conspiracy theories? Look, I wrote a book called The True Manchurian, so I'm very familiar with some of these conspiracies. And I hate to use, in a way, I almost hate to use the word conspiracy because it tends to lead people to, tinfoil hat society type thinking. But Anonymous, what is it that you think about this Epstein case that, one, could change people's minds maybe, and two, how did you come across some of your information?
Well, I usually don't buy into a lot of these conspiracy theories that are floated, but this one does have some interesting points. As we've all found out through internet research and the news, what the news is actually telling us is that Epstein has a history of sexual assault on underage girls. He basically got a slap on the wrists in 2008, which is very strange, and no federal charges were ever filed against him in Florida, even with the numerous young girls coming forward. He basically paid some fines and settled some settlements. Well, they're also alleging that, and some of this stuff does make some pretty good sense, that Epstein was, in fact, an intelligence asset for multiple countries, and that he would use his properties, the one in Arizona, or I'm sorry, not Arizona, New Mexico, the one in New Mexico, and his little Paradise Island, and he would bring these prominent people to this island, have them engage in these inappropriate situations, and the rooms that they were using were all set up with sound and video. So they were videotaping all of these inappropriate interactions with these prominent people from other countries and other political figureheads, and in the attempts that if they needed to use this as political blackmail in the future, this would be a huge tool if you wanted to, control a governing body from another country. If you had this damning information of them, videotaped, that you could pull out of your hat anytime you needed.
Well, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but because I just want to give you time to build your case.
Right.
And what you're saying can make perfect sense in terms of, espionage, in terms of CIA type operatives. And we know all this clandestine type, James Bond type thing is happening here. We know this happens. It happens all the time. These people go into protective custody. So I don't want to lead you. I don't want to say what you're going to think or say, but in your terms of what you're saying about this conspiracy, did Epstein commit suicide or didn't he commit suicide? There's no such thing as partly committing suicide. You either did or you didn't. So do you have anything in that area that we're going to talk about? I'm going to let you finish your thought, but I just want you to sort of think also in that regard. Go ahead.
Right. Well, after the supposed photos were released of Epstein being wheeled into the ICU at the hospital with the people standing around him, a physician actually came and made a YouTube video and explained something that I was unaware of. He said that, it's very possible over the course of age for someone's facial feature, like his nose, they were pointing at his nose saying, well, his nose was perfectly straight here, and now in this picture, it's slanted down a little bit, it's crooked a little bit. Well, things can happen to people's noses. But one thing he was really adamant about pointing out was that the physical structure of your outer ear would not change. And I was unaware of this, that he said that everybody's outer ear structure is basically the same as your fingerprints. They're almost, exclusive to you.
Right.
And I never knew that. And I mean, I have different backgrounds, but I was never aware that your inner ear structure, your outer ear structure, could also be used as an identification. And I mean, if you look at those pictures that they posted, and it shows the person being wheeled out, and I mean, they define the outer ear structure, and it's radically different. And it's just, that's just one more thing, that points that maybe he was, tucked away and taken away, because I mean, this man has
and I like that. I like that you're going there, but okay, now let's get back to where you were on the CIA. Maybe he was a intelligence agent, sort of, working for foreign governments, or, he could have been working for our government. He could have been a double agent for that matter. He could have been working for multiple governments and sort of gathering intelligence against very powerful, very highly influential individuals that in what you may be saying as well, they could use that information once these people were in power and then use them for influence. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yes. And I do believe that he was also, an agent for our government. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And one source even mentioned that his plane was given a military tail number.
Okay.
So that his plane could basically move about the whole world without the same scrutiny that would be placed on like a commercial airliner or a person's own private jet. Because the FAA, as you all know, requires, very meticulous flight plans and record logs of who's on the flights, which this is how we know some of the prominent people that actually traveled with him, because the FAA travel logs are a public document. But the fact of him having a military tail number on his plane would make real good sense if he was truly a government intelligence asset.
Correct.
Because he could move about with anonymity, which is what he would need to do.
And of course, let's talk a little bit about the people in his circle. Of course, the lady that they're searching for now, that was his confidant, sort of the madam, supposedly, was someone that was recruiting the young girls and bringing them to Epstein and others.
Yes.
What do you know about that side of it?
Not a lot, but they're coming out every day. I mean, yesterday they even linked him to him and her to a French modeling agency that supposedly supplied them with 1,000 underage girls.
Right.
So she was the one, like you said, she's the one laying out the base work for this and bringing the girls in. And some of the girls that are coming forward are actually saying that both Maxwell and Epstein would hold classes that the girls would go to every day. And they would discuss how they wanted them to behave sexually and how they were supposed to treat these people. And it was almost like, etiquette classes, how these girls were expected to behave. And I mean, this is such a fluid situation that, there's probably information coming out right now as you and I are talking.
Well, what's the chances, and we may go to something else as well, but what's the chances of finding this person and then this person be willing to come forth if the person is still alive? What's the chances of that happening in your mind?
The chances, well, they've already spotted her 3 or 4 times out in California. I mean, she's still tracing about like she hasn't got a care in the world. And if I was her, I'd be scared to death. Right. Because now she is, as you want to call it, the elite's public enemy number one. Because now that if Epstein is actually really gone, she is now, public enemy number one because she knows where all the skeletons are.
Right.
She knows all the names. She knows the faces. So yeah, she needs to be very cautious as to what she does and who she's associated with.
What?
They may actually.
Go ahead.
They may actually be able to pick her up, but with all of the coincidences that supposedly happened in the detainment of Jeffrey Epstein in one of the New York City's federal protection jails, with the cameras and the cellmate that mysteriously gets transferred, who was a former police officer that supposedly murdered 4 people and was huge by his arms were the size of my thighs. So, I mean, he could have actually been the person that, inflicted the damage to Epstein a week ago with it around his throat. He could have actually tried to strangle him out a week ago.
Right.
But it just seems that it's just another one of the things in the coincidence of, hey, look, Jeffrey, let's do this, and it'll make it look more real when we actually have to say that he committed suicide and make him disappear. Because there is another source that worked at the supposedly was a jail employee that said that they took him out of the cell in a wheelchair, cuffed in the front, okay, which anybody that has anything to do with law enforcement knows that if you're wanting to secure a detainee, you don't cuff them in the front because they still pretty much have almost full range of motion. And they wheeled him down supposedly to the infirmary, but none of the triage nurses ever talk about seeing him or treating him for anything. And mysteriously, a transport van shows up on the weekend, all right? And they don't do transfers on the weekend, according to this employee. And there was a man in military dress uniform in the van.
Well, this has a feel of something like Jimmy Hoffa. I mean, to me, we're never going to get to the bottom of this because it's too many people, too many tentacles that spreads out, and it connects to so many. You really just don't know where to start. When you grab one tentacle, another tentacle gets loose. I mean, it seems almost impossible to figure out this puzzle. Like you say, we know he was a pedophile. We know he loved young girls. We know he was a billionaire. We really don't know where he got all his money from. That's another huge question.
Right.
We really don't know how deep this is involved with some of our government officials, because some names like Governor Richardson from New Mexico has been brought into this. You have people like high-profile attorneys like Alan Dershowitz. Of course, you got Bill Clinton. We know where he rose. And so all these people are connected, but you just don't think, how are we going to solve this? Take a minute on this one, and let's see where we go. But then I want to talk about some other things as well. Go ahead.
All right. Well, of course, Bill and Hillary Clinton would be on the top of the list that would like to see Epstein go away. I mean, anybody with any kind of rational thought pattern, that would be number one. Okay. Bill and Hillary have the most to lose. The FAA logs, which are very well kept up, they have to be, show Bill flew on the plane over 26 times. Not every time was to the island. They did go to other locations. And Hillary, I think they said have on the flight logs 6 times. Now, Hillary has also been implicated in some other heinous activities that we don't have even a time to get into today.
Right.
But Bill has always been, and you know this, Bill has always been involved with women and scandals. Hillary's supposedly, according to rumor, has been a lesbian for many years. So Bill has had to basically grab any chance that he could with any female he could possibly get his hands on. And, that only makes sense.
Well,
they're doing their best to distance themselves from Epstein.
Well, that's not going to be possible. And I think the average American can sit back and look at this and say, look, here's a hole. There's too many holes in this story. I don't care what the national narrative has become, well, he committed suicide and he's gone and we can't charge him. But there's a lot of people out there that were there, they saw it, they were part of it, and these people need to be pursued, especially with this much at stake. Let's turn our attention to, people have brought up the Vegas shooting, people have brought up Sandy Hook, of course, 9/11, and I tend to stay away from the moon landing. I mean, I just know too many people myself personally. So you got about 5 minutes. Which one of those you want to take up, or do you have something else that you would like to discuss?
Well, my background, and some of you know my background, and Sandy Hook. Okay, Sandy Hook never sat right with me from the onset, from the very first television tape showing the scene at Sandy Hook. I have been personally involved in active shooter training since the beginning of the program. The scene I saw at Sandy Hook was identical to the scene outside of the school that we used for our training, as far as the way the scene was taped off, as far as the activity that was going on outside of the school. And the most thing that sticks out in my mind about, one of the most things that sticks out in my mind about Sandy Hook was there was one ambulance, and it was almost a mile away down at the fire station.
Okay.
That scene would have been covered with emergency vehicles. There was only a few police cars there. They had crime scene tape around the whole outside of the parking lot. There was a dispatch had made reference to a in-car camera video that should have caught the students being ushered out of the school by the teachers and the staff. They should have come right across the front windshield of the cruiser.
So what are you getting to? Are we saying that Sandy Hook never happened, or it happened and someone took an opportunity to embellish it or change it? For what reason?
Well, the one curious thing about Sandy Hook that really sticks out to me is there were never any pictures of the crime scenes released.
Okay.
None. Okay. Not the first drop of blood on a window, a glass that he supposedly kicked in to gain access to the school. Not a drop of blood anywhere in the hallways. No videos of victims being wheeled into the hospitals that went to various different hospitals.
Look, Anonymous, you're piquing my interest, and I know a lot of people. I know it, but I know a lot of people who are on one side of that issue or the other, because I think about it from the parents, and the people there in the community, and getting them involved in this to sort of, cover up something of this magnitude. And I have to say, at what is the purpose? Was it to attack, our gun laws? Was it just part of a bigger picture that's being painted for the American people about violence? What is it that they would have wanted to be the outcome?
I feel that it was a false flag event to further push the liberals' gun grab agenda.
Okay.
And when you mention the parents, the one that sticks out in my mind is the actions of the father that was caught on video, and he didn't realize that the cameras and the mics were hot. Okay. They show him inside the glass door of the school talking with other people there. Now, there's supposedly other parents and maybe some staff members. Well, they're laughing and cutting up. Okay. And this was caught on camera. Now, if you're the father of somebody that just lost their elementary school student the day before, you're not going to be cutting up and carrying on and then you look up and realize, oh, we're on. And then all of a sudden you go back into character.
I can see that. And someone just posted in the chat room, says the parents of the supposed deceased in Sandy Hook said they never got to see the bodies of their children. Is that true? We just got a few minutes, but is that true? Can you verify that as well?
I can't verify that. All I know is we didn't get to see anything.
Okay.
And
the public.
Now, another curious thing is that somebody went back and did a little research on all of the terrorist activities that had occurred. And during the subway and bus bombing, or the train bombing in Britain, the Britain Public Service was having an exercise. Now, during Sandy Hook, our Homeland Security was down the road, not 20 minutes from the school, having a class. And the class was children in crisis. That's odd.
Yes, and there's another situation. Of course, we're not going to be able to solve it today. I'm hoping that at some point we can continue this conversation. Maybe we can have some others that have some thoughts on these issues if they want to come on. And of course, this is great because we can discuss this without the fear of being turned off by social media giants, whatnot. And I really, really have been intrigued by some of the things that you brought forth about Jeffrey Epstein. I've thought some of the same things. I think there's a lot of holes in that situation. And of course, Sandy Hook, I've never dug that deep into it, but now I'm finding out new information that I wasn't aware of. And I think that others out there want to talk about some of these cases like the Vegas shooting. That one's really huge because it just vanished. I mean, it just disappeared. Nobody even knows anything about that situation. You got a minute. Go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll let you have the stage for this last minute.
Okay. Well, we've talked about so much, and we've jumped around to so many different subjects, but like you said, the Vegas thing is, and we could talk for hours on it because, supposedly most of the witnesses in the Vegas thing said there was 2 shooters. How did he get so many bags of guns duffel bags up to the hotel room, using the hotel employees and being videotaped the entire time? You have been to a casino, as have I. Casino security is some of the tightest stuff in the world. But there's so many holes in that. We could spend hours talking about this stuff. Sandy Hook and all these other ones in the country.
Right.
We could talk about those as well.
Well, and I think it's something that, as we move forth in the show, I may do this from time to time, and I would love for you to come back and maybe talk about some of the others that are out there. Of course, the Jeffrey Epstein is the one that's forefront at the moment.
Yes.
Of course, there's always some conspiracy. Someone just wrote earlier, said bad people conspiring equals a conspiracy. So, that's not a bad thing that we're discussing these issues. And I'm glad that you was willing to come on. Most people don't mind discussing these issues in the privacy of their own environment, but it takes a lot of courage to come on air and talk about these issues that a lot of people just will either disagree with or agree with at the end of the day. But thank you very much, Anonymous. I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll welcome you back again.
I look forward to it.
Of course, that was Anonymous that came on, wanted to talk about conspiracies. He was able to come on in a very concise way, talk about the Jeffrey Epstein situation, and he left some good. He has some good points. And of course, if you would like to follow up with that, you can follow us on I may be wrong, but I don't think so.com. Become a subscriber to the show. Go to our website, subscribe to the show. And also don't forget, we need your support. We are a listener supported radio outfit for what you want to call it. And of course, we do have a podcast that will be coming on very soon. We got the other episodes that you can follow up with and find out more about the show. But we really want to thank you, and we really appreciate you. God bless you. God bless America, and peace.
You've been listening to Alfonso Ashworth, the Barry White of Podcast Radio. Go forth and share his message. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Remember, no two people can ever occupy the same place at the same time. You were uniquely and wonderfully made. Born an original. Don't die a copy. God bless. Peace.